Guys, so the first thing when you're swapping over your springs, depending on how you do it, but I like to take out all the spark plugs first to get that out of the way. Alright, then after that, you take out the valve cover. It's just the 8mm. I like to use my little gun here to speed up the process. And then this one I had already pulled it, so it's gonna pressure wash this. So I had took off the push rods here so that the valve would stay seated and nothing would go into the actual motor. So once you do that, you take off your rockers. That one's pretty tight. But to be able to do the springs with the headset on the motor, you'll need like I have this adapter off of like a compression gauge tester. It's kind of hard to try to show you the part number, but there's the part number. But pretty much any like 14 thread gauge compressor adapter or compression gauge will work. Pretty much what you do, you just thread it into the spark plug hole. Thread it in there, and then you hook up the air hose to it, and pretty much that'll put pressure on the valve up, so when you push the springs down, the valve will stay up and it won't end up falling through the falling down into the cylinder wall or into the cylinder. So first thing you're gonna want to do is just plug in the air hose to it. And then this one's a 13. This tool here, it's a valve spring compressor. It's specific for the LS. You bolt it to where the rockers go, and bolt it there, and then you just tighten it. My little tool fell down, but so then once you take the retainer clips out, I dropped one, so I had to get it. But once you take them out, you just loosen up this bolt back up here. You just pull that out, toss those, and these springs here are the Pack 1218s, which is the ones we're putting in here. Make sure they're in the bottom right. And the tool will have like a retainer form, so it kind of puts them in the right spot. And then I put this nut in it here, so I wouldn't have to pretty much takes out the slack, so it makes it faster. Then you align it, make sure that the springs aren't going to hit the valve on the way down. Once that's all the way down, you take your retainer clips, put them on there. Then once the retaining clips are on, you just loosen the bolt. And that's pretty much it. The springs are on, and you pretty much just do that 8 more times, repeat all the way around. So now we're going to be installing the cam. I already took the timing cover off and the water pump off. It's pretty easy. You just take off the 6 10mm bolts off the water pump, then you take off the 2 lower bolts that go on the oil, through the oil pan, and the other ones around. Then you just take off the little cover here, the cam cover, whatever you want to call it. I had already like pulled it, but this cam it has in there now is a Torker V3, the TSP cam, which is what I was gonna run at first. But yeah, pretty much once you do that, you just spin the cam around so it kind of pushes the lifters up into the lifter trays. That way you don't risk dropping them. What I do when I have the motor on the stand like this and the oil's drained and stuff, I usually just flip it upside down just for the extra security. Alright, so like I said, I like to flip the motor upside down just for the extra security, and then I just put the bolt, spin it around a couple times just for fun, and then you can just start pulling it out, and then you just spin it while you pull it out, and it'll kind of find its way out. And then I like to put that bolt on the end. I don't know if I said that or not, but just to kind of give you a spot to grab it from when you're first taking it off. Alright guys, so like I said, that's a Torker V3 cam, and then this one here is the, don't remember what the part number is on it, but it's a 228, 230 cam. You pretty much just put the assembly lube all over it just to kind of help with, so it won't have like a dry start. Just make sure pretty much that they all have some on there, just spread it around good, and then again I take the bolt off pretty much just to give you a spot to grab it from, I guess. Just put it on any random spot on here. Alright, so then to put it, as you can see, my cam bearings are still pretty good. I don't see any browns or whatever, so if it is, well, if it has any. Pretty much to put it in, you just kind of, it's reverse of taking it out. Just kind of be gentle, though you don't want to end up knocking a cam bearing out or something, so I'll just spin it back and forth and it'll find its way in. Pretty straightforward. And then it's in. And you're pretty much done. Alright, so once you have the cam in there, then you can put the timing plate, and I just use my little gun to put them all the way, then I tighten them down by hand so that they're actually tightened, and then you put your chain and your timing cover back on and you're good to go. So I took the oil pan out so I can take the Allen head bolt out. Pretty much a cheap or free way you can kind of modify your oil pump is if you take that cap, that Allen head cap screw out that's right here. You take it out. You could either put washers or a nut in here, and you pretty much fill it in flush with the top of the cap, and then you put the spring back in and the cap, and that'll pretty much shim your spring so it gives you a higher oil pressure. So right now I'm installing the Transgo shift kit on the 4L80. Here's the shift kit. It comes with instructions, and the instructions are pretty good, so I'm not really going to record showing that. I'm going to show the instructions, show where the check balls go, so you can double check. That's probably one of the biggest concerns for when people do this. So like if a check ball falls out and you don't know where it goes, the instructions show in pretty detail. I mean, the instructions are pretty good, like really good actually. So alright guys, so there's the 4L80. I already did the shift kit. That's all I did. The internals seemed pretty good. I didn't take it apart, but I mean there wasn't really any shavings, and the fluid was still nice and like kind of nice red color. But yeah, like I said, the shift kit is pretty straightforward. If you order the kit, the instructions make it really easy. I would say the hardest part was to make sure, well actually everything's like really easy. So I mean, if you're somewhat mechanically inclined, you can do the shift kit no problem. And this is the flywheel I'm gonna use. It's for it was on my LQ4 for a truck. See, it has the spacer for the 4L80. Yeah, I think that's about it. Alright guys, so I'm not sure if I said this yet or not, but another thing I like to do when I have the motor out is switch the oil pump O-ring, the one here, mainly because right now it's a very simple, easy job, and you know, it takes maybe like 10 minutes to do versus once the motor's in, it's kind of it's still pretty easy, but it's a longer time. But to do it, you just take off this 13 mil nut here, the 13 mil nut there, and then the 10 mil bolt here on the actual oil pump. You slide it out, put a new O-ring, and then you make sure you lube it up and then put it back in there so you don't end up spinning it or ripping it. So I have this, the valley cover. When I pulled it out, I ripped the seals on it because they were bad and they were pretty much so dried up that when I pulled it, instead of stretching, they ripped. And I had already painted it, and I didn't really feel like going to buy some new seals. And I remembered I have this new LS6 valley cover laying around, so I'm gonna just throw that, paint it, and then just throw that one on there so I don't have to buy new seals. And I ran out of gray paint, the same gray paint I was using for the actual engine, like the valve covers and the timing cover. And I have this one laying around, so I also said the same thing. Didn't feel like running to the store, and I'm gonna just use this one to paint it. So, yeah, it should look pretty. It should still match up pretty nice though. So it's kind of whatever. You don't really see the valley cover, anyways. I just like to paint them because otherwise they end up getting like corroded, kind of like this one. So, kind of to stop that from happening, you can take out that sponge they have in between from the factory. So here's my LQ9 pretty much ready to go in. This is the color I decided to do, just black, and then I want to say it's like silver. And for the valley cover, I kind of ran out of that silver paint, so I just used this other paint, but it still matches up nicely. And since I'm going to do the EGR delete, I was going to buy a what do you call it, a block off plate for my original intake, but I have this intake laying around that my buddy gave me, and I noticed this one doesn't even have a spot for EGR, so I'm just gonna run that. Save me like 20 bucks. Like pretty much that one, instead of having the hole, it's all sealed up. And like even my red truck, that factory doesn't come with EGR. It has the hole, but it just has like a little block off plate. So yeah, this is pretty much gonna wrap up this video, and probably next time I upload a video, I'll be swapping the motor into the truck.